Ever pondered how investors forecast economic growth or recession? The answer lies in a tool called the yield curve. Now, you may ask, what exactly is a yield curve? Picture it as a graph, a visual representation that illustrates the relationship between the interest rate, or the yield, and the time to maturity of debt securities. There are three primary types of yield curves. The most common one is the normal yield curve, which slopes upwards, indicating that the yield on long-term bonds is higher than on short-term ones. Why is this so, you might wonder? It's because investors want a higher return for lending their money for a longer duration. The second type is the inverted yield curve, a rare occurrence that slopes downwards. This happens when the yield on long-term bonds is lower than on short-term ones, signaling that investors are concerned about a potential recession and are therefore demanding a lower return for lending their money over the long term. Lastly, we have the flat yield curve, where the yields on bonds of different maturities are all relatively close together. This typically occurs when investors are uncertain about the future direction of interest rates. Now, you might be thinking, why should I care about the yield curve? Well, the yield curve is a significant economic indicator. It can give hints about the future direction of interest rates, economic growth, and inflation. A normal yield curve is often seen as a sign of healthy economic growth, as it suggests investors are confident in the economy and are willing to lend out their money for longer periods at higher rates. An inverted yield curve, on the other hand, is often seen as a red flag for a looming recession. It indicates that investors are worried about the future and are demanding a higher premium to lend their money for longer periods. The slope of the yield curve can also provide insights into the future direction of inflation. A steeper yield curve is usually associated with higher inflation expectations, while a flatter yield curve is typically linked to lower inflation expectations. Central banks, such as the Federal Reserve, even use the yield curve as a benchmark for setting interest rates. When they want to stimulate the economy, they typically lower interest rates, leading to a flatter yield curve. Conversely, when they want to cool the economy, they usually raise interest rates, leading to an inverted yield curve. So, to wrap up, the yield curve is more than just a graph. It's a valuable tool for understanding the economy and making informed investment decisions. Now, whenever you come across the term yield curve, you'll not only know what it is, but also appreciate its significance in the economic world.